Alright, this video is for the purpose of showing you how to connect up some external microphones to the camera XA1. So if I have a pair of microphones, something like this, I want to connect them to here. What do I do? How do I do that? Well, first of all, when I pull it off, if you notice this one too, a side note here, sometimes when they pack them up, they have to take off the iris. So it just goes on here at an angle, twists on and locks, pops back off again. So that, and it has, there's your lens cap now. So we'll get back to that if we need to. But anyhow, so we have our camera. We want to connect up some external microphones. So right here, you see on the side of this, we have the ability, it says on and off here. So if it's on, if I can get that closer. If I turn this to the off position like it is now, then it's going to use the internal microphones that are built in on either side. There's one over here and there's one right here. So that's what it's using right now. But if I want to use external microphones, then I switch that on. All right, and then I determine the settings for that microphone with all these switches here. So these switches don't do anything until this this switch has been turned on. But this right here, whole handheld unit from right here to right here, is just attached to the camera. Now, if you look here, you've got line, mic, and mic plus 48, and the same down here. So each of your two inputs, you have two microphone inputs, which I will show you right here. Two mic inputs, they're labeled 1 and 2, and here's all the corresponding switches here. Channel 1, channel 2, so it's basically two sets of controls that do the same thing. Now over here, this guy, what he does is set your gain. That's your input level for that microphone. Now you only use this if you're going to be using it on manual mode. This M, A. So if I go like that, it's on automatic. It will automatically adjust the level of the microphone. It'll turn it up when everything's quiet. When things start to get too loud, it'll turn it back down. Given that we are recording a lot of musical performances, we don't want to lose that dynamic. So usually we want to leave these on manual. So you want to get there early and test your levels and get them to where they work out. Generally, it's very rare that there's an exception to this. Generally, you're going to want both of these set the same. They're not the easiest things to adjust either. So I mean, they're easy to turn, but it's hard to turn them with finesse. So, and you can see I'm having problems getting this one to turn. So I'm just going to set them both to middle for right now, and that's where we're going to start. Now, if you'll notice, going back over here, we have the line input, mic, and mic 48, the three settings. We are most likely going to be using mic plus 48, and what that is phantom power. Some microphones require that you give them an external power source, and that's called phantom power, and it comes to the tune of 48 volts. So whenever we connect up our microphones, we're going to want to make sure that that's on, or else we will get no signal. Okay. So great. Let's get to it here. So I've got my camera over here. Are my inputs. I need to plug up an XLR cable into each of these. So if you'll notice that they're labeled 1 and 2. Generally speaking, think of odd numbers as left, even numbers as right. So this will be left and right, channels 1 and 2. The XLR cables, you'll need one for each microphone. So this is just a pair of XLR cables I had sitting out. You can grab two XLR cables and plug one into each side and plug the other in. Or sometimes you'll see it in this format where it's actually one, it looks like one cable, but at the end of it, it splits out and there's actually two XLR cables at the end of it. And they're usually color coded. As you see, these are red and brown. It doesn't really, the colors are insignificant, but as long as you know which one's which. And this is called a snake. That's basically anytime you have more than one cable bundled up together, we call that a snake. So I'm going to take the end of my 2-channel snake here and plug it up into the camera. Let me take off all of this Velcro so I don't give myself some slack here. Now, this is not a rule, but it's a good practice. I always put red on the right and whatever other color on the left. So the right is usually input 2. So I'm going to put the red cable right here on input 2. Oh, I got it upside down. You notice the three little prongs there. This is the male end. It's got 3 prongs. This is the female end. It has 3 corresponding slots there, and you just go in there and bam, clicks into place. Now, whenever you take these out, there's a little button here on the bottom. What that does is it locks this cable. It keeps it from coming out. So whenever you take it out, you actually have to press this button as you pull. It's kind of a weird motion as you do it, but right there. So now I've plugged in my 2 cables left and right. Let's move that over. Grab the other end of my cable. And I'm going to run this out to wherever my microphones are, right? So this might be, let me turn that out of the way. Somewhere out here. Now, your microphones, I'm going to show you a couple of options that you're going to have. We have these things that are for putting 2 mics at a time on here. Basically, is a clip that sits on top of a mic stand. It's a regular mic stand, and it's got this special adapter at the top that holds 2 mic clips. So you can put basically a microphone in each of these, and when I turn it at a little bit of an angle, you see they kind of point across each other. So one's pointed left, one's pointed right. Most frequently they point across like this. They don't point outward, they point across, and that's called XY. It's like on an X-axis, Y-axis, if you want to think of it like that. And it's called XY miking. So there's one option. Throw your mics on there and then plug them up. Hey presto, you're good to go. Just take this one mic stand and set it where you need it to go. Alternatively, you could take 2 mic stands and set them close enough together to where you can set the 2 microphones on there and make that XY configuration. So it really doesn't matter. We already have mic stands with these adapters, so you know, if they're available, hey, why not use it? It just makes life simpler, right? And it looks a lot cleaner for people who are in attendance, but since we don't care about that right now, nobody's going to be in attendance. That's why we're doing this. Just do what you feel like doing. For today's purposes, I'm going to use 2 mic stands. And this is the cord that I'm talking through here, this mic cable. So if you have a mic stand, I know this is elementary, but and if you've never done it, you don't know this. The base of a mic stand slides up and down through here, right? So sometimes they're already packed up, and the way you tighten and loosen it is just right here. I'll get closer to you. So that just tightens up the mic stand right there. It tightens up the base of the mic stand, the tripod. So now it'll won't slide through. Sometimes that does come loose, and moving it around, that post will come out and go bam, hit the floor. So just make sure that it doesn't have to be like cranked. It's just, you know, make sure it's snug. We're good. And then it telescopes right here. There's this collar. How well you can see this. When I loosen it up, this telescopes. So if I need to go higher with that, I get it to where I want it, and then I tighten up this collar, and that's, you know, I'm not like cranking it, but it's fairly snug. You just don't want it to press down. So now I've got that. We'll say that's good. That's where I want it. And then this portion, ooh, I need to get it higher so you can see it. This portion is called the boom arm. What it does is allows you to boom the mic. So it's got this lever here, loosen it up, and I can adjust my angle. Once I get it where I want it, we'll say that's where I want it. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. And then on the other side, there's this little knurled headed screw here. You can see it. I loosen it up. Now I can slide the boom up and down. Now, generally speaking, a boom arm, a lot of times people will just automatically go all the way out so they get as much reach as possible. And you can do that, but you really have to crank this down. One of the reasons a boom arm is so long is that it puts in excess. This acts as a counterweight to what's up here. In fact, some of them, this right here part is like really big and heavy to allow you to extend further and maintain a balance. Because if this part's not tightened up all the way, you'll start getting this action really slowly. You won't even notice it, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, the microphone's dropping. I've had that happen so many times. So there, now you know. We've got two of these guys, and I'm going to lower this apparatus down so it's all in frame. I'm going to set both of my mic stands up the same way. Right now I've got neither one is telescoped, and I'm going to adjust the boom arm to about the same angle, same distance up. Hey presto. Now a lot of times you'll see these little nuts here. They're so thin, I think of them as threaded washers, but I guess technically they're nuts. These are, whenever you put a mic clip on here, sometimes the mic clip bottoms out, but it bottoms out at an angle that you don't want it, and you need to loosen up that mic clip in order to get it pointed the right direction. Well, once you do that, then the mic clip's loose. So this right here, you tighten up against that mic clip, and it keeps it from turning. That's all that is. So if you're not used to that, that's what you're going to see. Now let's get the actual mics. I recommend, unless you have some experience and reason to deem otherwise, I recommend recording with either these, which are SM81s by Shure. We've got 4 of these, so we could check out this camera and the other camera just like it, and each one gets a pair of SM81s. You're going to get a great recording with that. We also have a pair of microphones you've probably seen in recitals that sit usually right before recital. We set them up in front of the performers, and they're already on a stand with this configuration on there that's got the 2 mics on one stand, and that's a pair of Neumann K184s. Dealer's choice. Just as long as you have 2 matched microphones and 2 mic cables, or a stereo snake in this case, to connect it all together, you should be good. Now, the way I'm going to do this is whenever you get these SM81s, they're going to have a clip in there. So those clips are specific to these microphones. So, quite simple. Oh, okay. Well, I'm kind of glad this happened. So, inside of this one is an adapter. Sometimes they will have these, sometimes they won't. Not all mic stands are the same. Now there's focus. Some of them have a smaller size there. So to get that out, I'm going to I reached in my pocket, my keys weren't there. I'm just going to loosen it up. A screwdriver, anything. I, oddly enough, happen to have a spoon sitting here. So if you see they're slotted across there, let me get it to focus again. Focus. But this adapter has a slot on it. And I'm literally just putting my spoon in here as a screwdriver to loosen it up. Use a quarter penny set of keys, and that's going to screw onto the end of the mic stand. Now, if you notice, inside these actually have a built-in adapter, so they'll use two different size. They'll thread onto two different size mic stands. I don't know why that adapter's in there. Almost everything we do is on this standard size, so I'm just going to tighten that on there until it doesn't go any further. And there's always two. So I'm going to the other box. Put it on the other stand. Again, there's an adapter on there. Why were these on there? I know. I think I remember. So I'm taking it out. Putting it on the mic stand. And hey presto, so we have two mic stands set up. I'm going to take my microphones, and you know, be careful with these. They're not so fragile you're going to mess it up by just bumping it around a little bit, but definitely try not to drop them, because you know, there's a few $100 right there. I don't know, what about $400 or $500 for one of those, I guess. And then I have to look up. I can't remember the pricing on these now. Okay, so we have our two microphones, and one end of the cable is plugged into the camera. The other end I'm about to plug back here. So this is where you want to keep things clear in your head. I put red as right. Okay, I'm going to set up my camera as if you're standing there behind it. And my microphones are going to be pointed at the audience. I'm sorry, not the audience, at the performers. So there's going to be a little adjusting that has to go on. And if we're doing an XY miking, like what we're doing, I've got this microphone. It's going to be shooting kind of that way. And this microphone is going to be shooting the other way. Now I'm going to make some mild adjustments here to my mic stand and height. What the stands end up looking like is kind of inconsequential as long as the microphones are properly placed. So when I'm looking down over the top of these microphones, what I want to achieve is about a 90-degree angle. One's going off to your right, and the other one's going off to your left. And I'm going to keep my mic stand a little bit loose until I get them close to where I want them. Then I'm tightening everything up. And now they're sitting right over each other in an XY fashion. You see, I'm going to go really high tech and do a low tech solution here. I'm going to take a photo of my microphones from over the top and then show them to you on the camera. Oh yeah, there we go. So the actual microphones from straight down over are XY. Now if you notice, the tips of them passed each other. The tip is not the microphone. The tip is just a windscreen. The actual microphone is in this area here. It's it's not helping any. I forget how deep it is in here, but anyhow, the two capsules inside that actually pick up the sound, that's what I'm trying to get in line with each other. It's not rocket science, just get close. But the microphones are really close together. If I do this, they actually touch. They bump, but I don't want them quite rubbing, because otherwise the whole concert will sound like. All right, so we've got our microphones set up. the performer would be about like right here. So one microphone shooting off to that side, one shooting off to that side. This is great for pretty much any situation. So I could set this up for one person sitting here playing flute, and you'd maybe set them back like, 3 to 5 feet, or or I could do a whole orchestra and set this back like 15-20 feet at least from the orchestra, because if you get too close to the orchestra, you're going to hear a whole lot of either violins and flute and not much of the back row, because the microphones are so much closer, relatively super close to the to one instrument and super far away from another. So the further you get away from the orchestra, the similar the distance is from each member to the microphone. And that's what kind of, ideal. Plus, this is there to emulate the idea of what it would have been like to go hear that performance if you were there, and that's what we're shooting for. So nobody sits right up on the conductor. They always sit, at least back to the first row, more than likely further back than that. The sweet spot, it's usually in the middle of the theater, right? Now, left and right. The one on your left is actually pointing to your right. So this is actually our right microphone, and this is our left microphone. So I'm going to say, I put my red on the right, and my other color on the left. Now you see this actual, these mics are kind of long for this, using this snake here, because it doesn't split that far. So it's kind of tightening up my configuration a bit. And that's it. That's pretty much it. They're set up. For this particular setup, this is one of my snakes right here, and it's not meant for this particular application. The ones we have there at the school are going to have a lot more slack in them. Or, like I said, you can just get 2 mic cables. It's the same thing. Now, coming back to our camera, I'm going to tilt it back so you can see right now. Here's my power switch. I'm going to hit on. I pushed it up to camera. Over here, you got an option of hitting of manual versus cinema versus auto. You can play around with it, but if you go auto, it's going to automatically adjust all the light accordingly, and that's usually a safe bet there. But if you're feeling adventurous, put it on manual or cinema and play around with the settings. Just make sure that it looks decent. I'm going back to auto for now. I've turned on my camera. I'm going to open my viewfinder. Hey. Now we don't see anything because the lens is closed. Right, so I'm going to do this again. I'm going to open up my lens. Bam, there it is. Now if you saw that's the auto lighting adjustment. So it's adjusting. Made it really dark. It's trying to brighten up from my hand, and when I pull it away, super bright. Oh, and then it adjusts. The only reason that's going to matter is if people are moving around in an ensemble or the lighting's changing. A lot of times when I'm recording in Blankenship, I go to manual up here, and then it doesn't matter what happens, the lighting's going to be, it's going to be consistent on the camera. The exposure is going to be the consistent thing. All right, so have our microphones plugged up. They're plugged in here. Now, what do we want? We want to get some levels off of these guys. And right now, we're not getting anything. So I'm going to come up here where it says mic and put it on mic 48, because these are condenser microphones. They require power. They require external power. And now I just need to get them adjusted to where they're picking up what we need. So I've got both of these. I'm turning them a little past here. And That's way too loud, so I'm going to back it off. This is why you want to be there beforehand to make all these adjustments. Get there as early as you can and find out who's playing, how loud they are. Preferably get there early enough while they're still rehearsing so you can get real world samples. I'm going to say that that's good. So now we're ready to record. All I need to do at this point is hit this red button or this red button right here. And it's going to start recording. And that's what we're going to get. Yeah. Make sure that you have, watch the screen when I do this. Anytime this door is open, you're not going to be able to do anything. You have to make sure your SD card is in there, in slot A or B, preferably both. But this one just has one in there. That should be fine. Now, just watch your meters. You want your meters generally to hop up to where check, 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 check. And that would be pretty good. But if I started seeing that a lot, I realize it's going to be clipping and would not sound good. Then you would want to pull back the gain up here. Also, you can monitor with headphones if you choose to. It's not a bad idea ever, really, to monitor what you're doing. They hide all these compartments on here, but a lot of times you get it and it looks smooth. This little soft cover comes off. And here, which is very difficult to see, even for me, I mean, you've really got to get some light on here. There's a headphone jack. And once you put your headphones in there, you can adjust your headphone volume. Here's my menu on the touch screen. Go to menu, and then be careful. This one's kind of loose already. Be careful. Maybe support this display as you touch it. Menu, and then there's where all your controls are. Here's all your camera controls. Now, if you notice right here, channel 2 input is showing input 1. So I'm gonna. Oh, sorry, I'm misreading that one. That's the trim that's up here. Sometimes you can, I was just making sure that it's not using one microphone for both sides. So there it is, yeah. I'm trying to show you as I do this and I keep hitting the wrong thing. I could set it, if somebody was just speaking and I don't need a stereo feed, I can send microphone 1, input 1, into channel 2. That way they're both getting identical feeds. Back out of this. If you hit X, you go back to the main screen. Let's see, and I was mentioning headphone volume. I haven't done this in a long time, so you can go through these menus and familiarize yourself with stuff that you might need. But there's a whole lot of stuff to do. And I may have gone past it. There we go, headphone volume. Why that's not a switch on the side, I don't know, but go into your menu, go to your wrench, go down to headphone volumes, and that adjusts the volume of your headphones. Probably cranking it up all the way because these don't really put out a whole lot of sound. And if you're in the room with the people or the performers as they're playing, that's going to make it even harder to hear your headphones, how much is coming through there. A lot of times you'll open it up and let me exit out of this. You'll see this. It's like, oh no, what's going on? I can't check any levels or anything. Well, it's simply on the side. There's this button here, DISP, display. Just hit that, everything's back. Whew. And we're all good. So between this video and the video I made prior, that should get you pretty well set up to take any of these Canon XA30s and go record whatever events you want to. Just remember to get long enough cables, because right now I've got these, you know, like 5 feet apart. Generally speaking, you're going to be like 20 feet or more apart. So keep that in mind. Make sure you get long enough cables. And if you grab one of our snakes, it's going to be plenty fine. All right. Hope that helps you out.